Have you ever dreamt of flying like a bird? It's something that nearly everybody, including myself, has experienced. Yet, as far as I know, none of us has ever succeeded. Since the mythological times of Icarus, many attempts have been made. For modern man, flying hang gliders or sailplanes is as close as he can get to the flight of birds. For it seems the basic principles of aerodynamics are simply incompatible with the design of the human body. Later in our show, we're going to take a look at some of man's latest attempts to defy gravity. But first, I'd like to show you one of the most unusual members of nature's aeronautic corps. His name, the Goonie. I like to call him the Looney Goonie. You're about to find out why. Remember to watch carefully so that you'll have fun and success when we play Animal Quiz. Stay with us, won't you? In the middle of the Pacific Ocean lies the tiny island of Midway, properly named for it lies almost midway between Japan and California. For countless centuries, the small, isolated island has been a favorite breeding site for the Laysan and black-footed albatross. After spending months at sea, traveling up to 10,000 miles all across the North Pacific, they instinctively and unerringly head for their own birthplace. Their comic actions have earned the albatross the nickname Goonie birds. From October to June, over 200,000 Goonies share the tiny atoll with thousands of other birds who also come to mate and raise their young. The Goonies' most numerous neighbors are the smaller sooty terns. Like the albatross, the sooty tern is an ocean bird which returns to the island only to nest and ensure the survival of a new generation. The life on Midway Island continued undisturbed for centuries. Its only natives, the birds. The quiet calm of this idyllic spot was a bird haven, far away from man and his inhospitable civilization. June 3rd, 1942. Civilization really came to Midway Island. The Battle of Midway was the turning point of World War II in the Pacific. Sadly, it also seemed an end for the birds' paradise, many of them casualties of man's war. Once peace returned, however, so did the Goonie bird. As far as they were concerned, no mere battle could change a force as strong as a homing instinct. The Goonie bird was ready to reclaim its land. But man had also decided Midway was a strategic place, and the U.S. Navy set up permanent housekeeping. The Goonie bird was just Goonie enough to ignore the invasion of humans and their machines. The problem was, however, that many birds that nested and flew close to the runway collided with aircraft, killing themselves as well as crippling the plane. Clearly, one of them would have to go, and it wasn't going to be man.
Begin now.
On the theory that the birds would run from loud noise and menacing posture, the Navy tried to scare them away by firing harmless blanks in battle formations. The birds would not retreat.
Begin now.
So Operation Bedsheet was ordered. Surely any bird would run away from such threatening forms. However, they quickly grew accustomed to the flapping toreadors and really thought it was kind of a game.
Begin now.
Experts were even called in. They assured the Navy that the birds could be smoked out. The official report read that no birds left the area. The only frustration experienced was by man, not bird. Neither smoke, nor blanks, nor bed sheets kept the Goonie birds away. Because they'd lived for so long without enemies, the birds simply lacked the usual fear toward man or machine. Man finally had to admit that the Goonies were there to stay. Their unusual mannerisms and lack of fear soon made them mascots of the island, as much a part of each household as a family dog or cat. The Goonie birds are accepted everywhere, even on the golf course. The Navy had bowed to the inevitable, widening the airstrip, which forced the birds to nest and fly further away from the runway. He may be a clown on the ground, but once in the air, the Goonie becomes majestic, his 7-foot wingspan letting him soar effortlessly for hours. Truly, he is the master of his domain. The Goonies had won. Midway was theirs. But they condescended to let the military share it. Their life cycle includes spending many months at sea, but they always return to their ancestral home. This magnificent flying machine makes an absurd three-point landing, and the majestic albatross once again becomes the clownish Goonie bird. Congratulations, Charlie. You made it. Solitary birds at sea, they share close quarters on land and must maintain a friendly relationship. Touching bills is like a Goonie handshake. At about 5 years of age, the male picks out his own bit of real estate. This is now his territory, which he will defend against any intruders. Males try their best to look ferocious, but the squabbles are simply warnings to any would-be violators and end as quickly as they begin. Most birds feel strongly about their territories and feel threatened if others cross its invisible boundaries. Although the sooty tern and albatross usually ignore each other, tempers can flare up occasionally. The female chooses the male, and they mate for life. Although no one knows if they travel together on the open sea, they always find each other on land. Before pairing, the Goonies perform an elaborate courtship dance. Although these teenagers are too young to pair, they practice with great enthusiasm. With the arrival of more and more Goonies, the island seems like one big party. Their Mutual Admiration Society creates an astounding variety of sound effects. Like everything in nature, however, the dance has a purpose: the survival of the species through reproduction. For 9 weeks, the nest with its single egg is never left unattended. Finally, the field of nests is alive with chicks. At 3 weeks, the baby Goonies are still helpless and require almost constant attention. They will remain at their nests for 5 months, completely dependent on their parents. Their first explorations of the world are not far away from the security of the nest. And even at this tender age, the chicks may have an idea of their own rights, and they will quickly defend them. A parent keeps a watchful eye on the chick, but if he sees no danger, he may let the young one fight its own battles. The parent's most important duty is to feed their chicks. While one babysits, the other must fly in search of fish and squid. A trip may take 2 days and cover over 1,000 miles. Like many other birds, the Goonie feeds its young through regurgitation. For almost 6 months, the baby and its parents see each other briefly every day. During this time, in the universal cycle of life, Midway is filled with the promise of a new generation. The Goonie birds of Midway again came to the attention of scientists at the end of World War II, when zoologists arrived to study the war's effect on the birds. But that was only the beginning for Dr. Harvey Fisher, who has made the Goonie bird his life's work. Returning annually to Midway for over 10 years, he has become the world's authority on the Laysan albatross. Dr. Fisher is not stealing eggs for his breakfast. Rather, he's embarked on an experiment to test for differences in behavior between the two species of albatross, the black and the white. First, he gives an egg of a white Goonie to a black Goonie to incubate. The experiment, of course, depends on whether or not the parent will accept the new egg. Fortunately, the Goonie bird, once in the mood for nesting, will keep anything warm and has been known to sit on soda bottles and tin cans. But only time will tell if she will accept the newly hatched chick. Sponsored by the Office of Naval Research, as well as Southern Illinois University, Dr. Fisher continues his study of why Goonie birds persist in returning to the same mating area. These young chicks, not yet able to leave the nest under their own power, will be taken to another nesting spot where they will grow to adulthood. This experiment will determine whether the albatross's homing instinct will guide him to his new home or back to his place of birth. Such is the Goonie bird's remarkable navigational ability that not only can they return to the same island, but Dr. Fisher knows that they usually get within a few feet of their own hatching site. This theory is tested by switching chicks from one end of the island to the other. To expand on this idea, some of the chicks are about to be transported to an island many miles away. Protected by law, the Goonie bird thrives on Midway Island. Now, because of dedicated men like Harvey Fisher, we may also begin to understand the Goonie bird's life cycle. As the bits of information and knowledge are slowly pieced together, they will be important contributions to what we need to know about the animal world to ensure its survival in man's world. The baby Goonie birds are now almost 6 months old. Their parents' feeding visits become more and more rare as the time for their migratory travels draws near. The hungry chicks must learn to fly in order to find food and survive. They instinctively go to the beach with its strong wind currents. Flight does not come all at once. Before the Goonie is cleared for takeoff, he must earn his wings like any other student pilot. That means hours of pre-flight warm-up.
Clear that watch in there. All clear for takeoff.
With typical youthful indecisiveness, many of the Goonie birds are torn between the security of the island and the unknown challenge of the sea and sky, and put off the maiden flight as long as possible. Eventually, however, the time has come for independence, and the first faltering flights begin. Nature has decreed that not all the Goonies can survive. Those with a nutritional disease called droopwing can't fly. Without flight, they will not find any food. And once again, nature balances herself so that the Goonie birds will not overpopulate the island, and that those who do survive will have the freedom to soar high and to return in the coming seasons to make their own nests. The young birds will soon leave the island for many months to answer the call of the open sea, to follow the migratory path their instincts have laid out for them. They may travel as far away as Alaska, California, and Japan. A ruff of baby feathers betrays their youth, but they are now on the threshold, ready to take up the heritage of their parents, to be the lovable but comic Goonie bird on land, and the majestic albatross soaring high in the heavens.
Mother Nature has certainly proven her sense of humor with the creation of Goonie birds. I think someone was trying to show us his sense of humor when he invented the kite. This is a very frustrating way to satisfy my urge to fly. Oh, well, I'm having about as much luck with this as Goonie birds have with landing. As you can see, animal experts aren't necessarily kite experts, too. The kite I was flying needed only a good gust of wind to fly. But sailplane and hang glider pilots must understand all the theories of engineering and physics that make flight possible. What's intuitive for birds is for us a science. Why don't you join me for some fun playing Animal Quiz? Here's our first question. As much as I prefer the name Goonie bird, I must admit that these birds are known by another name. Is it a seagull, an albatross, or a frigate? If you answered B, an albatross, you're right. If these birds didn't behave so strangely, they might have held on to their original name. A new nickname was only one change faced by these birds in the 20th century. Mother Nature's selection of Midway Island as their primary breeding site left Goonies isolated for years, but modern man had other plans for Midway Island. A historical event caused this turnabout. Was it World War II, the Korean War, the expedition of Captain Cook? If you answered A, you're right again, and you're off to a great start on Animal Quiz. During World War II, the Pacific Ocean became a battlefield. Midway Island happened to be a focal point. But this didn't deter the Goonie bird. Once the shelling stopped, he was happy to return. World War II may not have frightened the Goonie birds, but the U.S. Navy was determined to get them away from Midway Island. Naval officers felt certain that the Goonies would want to select a less populated breeding site. Their project, called Operation Bedsheet, was a tremendous success. Is this true or false? Well, if you answered false, you're correct. The U.S. Navy's battle against the Goonie birds may have been their biggest defeat in the Pacific. The Goonies remained undaunted by all means of attack. It became quite clear that they had no intention of leaving Midway. Goonie birds didn't end up with easy lives simply because the U.S. Navy gave up their battle. Goonie chicks must be carefully monitored by their mothers in order to survive. When the parent looks for food, it must often travel great distances. How far can it go? Over 100 miles? Or even 500 miles? Or as much as 1,000 miles? Well, if you answered C, you're right. It seems nearly impossible to imagine. But these lengthy treks are sometimes necessary to find fish and squid for their young. Well, maybe these birds aren't so goony after all. And one thing is certain, Goonie birds are survivors in the truest sense of the word. They help remind us that even when life is a struggle, we can never lose our sense of humor. I'm sure you all enjoyed meeting the Looney Goonies. And I hope you did well and had fun playing Animal Quiz. Join me again soon for another look at the new animal world. And remember, be kind to animals. It's good for everybody. Have you ever wished you could see a dragon? You know, one of those fire-breathing creatures that roar? Of course, we all know that dragons don't exist. They are the stuff and substance of dreams and legends. They're found only in folklore. The sinister and terrifying creatures of Western mythology that symbolize evil, or at best, the more kindly creatures of Oriental legend that bring good luck and bestow immortality. Or are they? These are the Komodo dragons, giant reptiles 10 feet long with sharp teeth and slender forked tongues. They don't breathe fire, but in most other respects are very deserving of the label dragon. We're going to travel to the Indonesian island of Komodo, just 12 miles wide by 20 miles long, which is the home of these dragons. And then later in the program, we'll have a lot of fun playing Animal Quiz. So stay with us.
This land was created violently as volcanic eruptions peppered the waters of the Indian Ocean with tiny islands. Land bridges joined some of them, and earthquakes toppled others back into the sea. Thus, perhaps 2 million years ago, the island of Komodo was born. And from some other unknown place, giant reptiles came here. No one knows where they came from, by what route, how, or why. Did they swim through the turbulent waters of the Indian Ocean? No one knows. But they found the island of Komodo a perfect place. Here there were no large competing carnivores. They survived. They thrived. They developed into the largest lizards on the earth. They fed on meat, mostly carrion, and there was plenty of it for them here. When there weren't enough carcasses, they ran down live creatures and consumed them: deer, hogs, snakes, rodents, anything they could kill. They were undisturbed, unknown, undreamed of. The closest man came to them was in his imagination, as he invented stories of scaly dragons with forked tongues. Finally, a few natives of Indonesia came here, but the landscape was considered so inhospitable that the first settlers were exiled convicts. They lived a simple life, huddled together in a tiny village by the sea. Other people came until the population reached about 300. Of course, they found the lizards. They called them Ora and feared them greatly. Whatever little farming had to be done was carried out close to the sea, from which they made their living. They preferred to leave the rough interior to the Ora. It was not until 1912 that the world even knew of the incredible creature dubbed the Komodo dragon. It was not until half a century later that man finally came here to stay and make an intensive study of it. The few scientific expeditions, naturalists, and adventurers who had come here before had established that the dragon was in reality a monitor lizard. But in 1969, Dr. Walter Offenberg was sent here by the New York Zoological Society and the Florida State Museum. He brought his wife and family. Sons Kurt, 16, Garth, 9, and Troy, 6. They were to stay a year. Dr. Offenberg's job was to observe the lizards in their natural habitat, to see and record the hundreds of details that would reveal the life history of these little-known and greatly misunderstood creatures. Dr. Offenberg and an assistant are dragging a dead goat to leave a trail of scent, which the lizards can pick up from as far as 5 miles away. This will lure the lizards from the area to a locale where Dr. Offenberg wants to observe them. The monitor's sensitivity to odors is due to the fact that in addition to the regular olfactory sense, their flicking tongues pick up scent particles from the ground and air and carry them to sensory cells in their mouths called Jacobson's organs. The men stake the goat out for the monitors to feed on. Soon, a lizard is lured to the spot. One of the many Dr. Offenberg has tagged and numbered since his arrival. Behind a blind, the doctor waits quietly. The lizards try to steer clear of people, but Dr. Offenberg knows that once the creatures start to feed, there is little that will disturb or distract them. Now he systematically records the lizard's eating pattern. Their massive jaws and saw-edged teeth rip loose whole sections of carcass, which they bolt down, bones and all. It is admittedly an unattractive sight, but Dr. Offenberg tolerates it, the stench of the rotting meat and the heat of the broiling sun, because this, like many others, is an endangered species, and Dr. Offenberg feels that the time has come when we must learn about and try to save all the creatures with whom we share the earth. In the thorny scrub forest of Komodo, a trap has been constructed to catch the giant lizards which make their home here. A young Indonesian named Putra waits in the midday heat and is soon rewarded. The Ora is cautious and slow, listening and checking the air for scent. At this stage, Putra must remain still. Lured by the bait, the monitor enters the trap. Dr. Offenberg has been hoping for weeks to trap a certain large lizard that was previously caught and marked. Once this one is inside, Putra can observe him more carefully, and he sees that this is not the one they've been waiting for. So he doesn't release the trap door, and the lizard soon leaves. The overwhelming heat and humidity become more and more oppressive as the day wears on, but it must be endured. For to the men involved in the study of the Komodo lizard, waiting is part of the game. And in time, another creature appears. Comparison of the lizard populations marked at various sites on the island are being made to determine movement from one area to another, as well as growth and death rates. The total number of wild Komodo monitors is estimated at around 2,000, but they are considered to be endangered because there are so few which can reproduce. In their population, there are 4 males to every female. Thus, only about 400 females in all the world. And of course, not all of these are of breeding age. The reason for this unusual ratio is unknown. These reptiles are being studied so that meaningful management programs can be devised and their survival guaranteed. This seems to be the creature Putra has been waiting for. Finally, slowly, the lizard enters the trap. The whistle alerts the camp only 100 yards away. It's a moment of excitement for everyone. Dr. Offenberg's boys are even more interested in the lizards now than when they arrived and first saw them. With a curiosity typical of young minds, they've soaked up a lot of knowledge about the creatures and have grown to feel like part of the project. Now, the job of subduing the lizard begins. The danger here is very real, for the 9-foot lizard could easily tear a man apart with his ripping teeth, claws, and thrashing tail. Though basically shy, when man corners them, these carnivores can be deadly. This is the most dangerous task of all. The teeth of the lizards are so contaminated that one bite can infect an animal as large as a buffalo and kill it. At last, it's thoroughly bound. First, it will have its temperature taken. One of the greatest mysteries of the physiology of the lizards is how they regulate the temperature of their large mass of flesh and tremendous volume of blood. Now he's tagged. His number has grown very faint, so he gets a new paint job. He's become overheated with his struggle and exposure to the sun. Dr. Offenberg quickly remedies that, knowing that overheating can be fatal to these creatures. There's an exit door to the trap, but the lizard must be helped through. The cords around his head will be cut and soon fall off, and he'll be roaming the island freely again. The lizards live only on this island, 12 miles wide by 22 miles long, and 3 other nearby, equally tiny isles. On other islands, animals have become extinct or rare because of destruction of their habitat, or simply because too many have been killed. Dr. Offenberg wants to be sure that doesn't happen here. The wildlife here is beautiful, but some of it is deadly. This is a poisonous green tree viper which inflicts extremely painful bites, usually around the face. They're headed for one of the dry riverbeds where the monitors dig their homes. This is a typical monitor burrow, excavated into the steep bank of a gully. There are no lizards nearby, but a Russell's viper, whose poisonous bite is deadly, seems to be standing guard. Kurt gets a temperature reading on the burrow. The temperature of the burrow is more uniform than the normal body temperature of the lizard. This suggests that the lizards probably help regulate their fluctuating body temperatures by going into the burrows. Further evidence to support this theory is the fact that the lizards are the dominant carnivores on the island, so the burrows are not necessary to provide protection from other predators. The monitors also dig burrows on the grassy hillsides, and Dr. Offenberg has investigated these too. But life here on the island hasn't been all scientific study and torrential rains or blistering droughts. It's had its pleasures and personal rewards. For as Dr. Offenberg has come closer to the truth about the wildlife of the island, he's had the opportunity to grow closer to his family too. Living in a Robinson Crusoe environment, isolated from the rest of the world, they've shared experiences here they wouldn't have otherwise had. It's been a unique, richly rewarding time, and full of fun. Not unexpectedly, sometimes they share the beach with the locals who come here to forage for seafood or just stare out over the Indian Ocean in their enigmatic way. This particular lizard and his habits are very well known to the Offenburg. In fact, they call him Crazy 34 because his ways are so unusual, including his regular visits to the beach for a swim. The days have been full here. Besides studying the lizards, Dr. Offenburg has observed the other animals, especially those that form part of the diet of the monitors. He knows the island well now. He's explored the beaches, the hills, and jungles. He knows where the waist-high grass conceals rough terrain covered with rocks and rubble, and the favorite haunts of the lizards. He's watched his boys learn and grow in these wonderful and strange surroundings. Together, they've searched for lizards on the beaches, over the grassy slopes, and up the dark volcanic ridges of Komodo. Once every month, a ship puts into the harbor at Komodo. This time, when the ship leaves, it will take the Offenburgs with it. And the whole town is turned out to say goodbye. A year ago, these were strangers speaking an unknown tongue. Now the Offenburgs speak Indonesian, and the people they're leaving are all friends. To each of them, the Americans have left some small thing: a pan, some silverware, a mattress, a parasol. Except for these few gifts, the island and its people will be left just about as they were before Dr. Offenburg came here. But something else may be changed, and changed drastically: the future of the island's lizards. With the data he's gathered, biologists can better decide what steps should be taken to ensure the survival of the lizard. Now, even as he begins the long journey home, his thoughts return to the island, to the lizards and their future. Can the island's vegetation and wildlife be stabilized to continue providing a suitable home and food for them? Is the present government protection of them adequate? Can we ensure their survival and reproduction in captivity? Dr. Offenburg hopes he takes the answers with him.
This is a monitor lizard. It's a member of the same family as the Komodo dragons. Monitors are almost uniform in appearance, with long heads and necks, thick tails, strong legs, and very cruel-looking claws and forked tongues. They range in size from the giant Komodo to an Australian species that measures barely 8 inches long. Monitors are fierce predators. They can run down quite large prey, and Komodos occasionally catch small deer or pigs. But they're certainly not fussy about what they eat. Any kind of carrion as well as living animals will do. A monitor lizard isn't exactly a cuddly animal, and in fact, they can be very dangerous. But there was once a Komodo dragon in the London Zoological Gardens that was friendly with an invalid woman who was a regular visitor. He even followed her as she wheeled about in her wheelchair. Well, Komodos aren't exactly the dragons of mythology, but they're certainly interesting creatures. So let's see how much you remember about these modern-day dragons as we play Animal Quiz. Here's your first question. No one knows precisely how the monitors reached Komodo or where they came from, but they are now living on this isolated island surrounded by a large body of water. Which one is it? Is it the Atlantic Ocean, or the Red Sea, or the Indian Ocean? Did you answer C, the Indian Ocean? You're correct. And it wasn't until 1912 that this island became less isolated and the world was introduced to these reptiles. How'd you do on your geography question? We have a lot more questions in our dragon quiz. So see if you can answer this one. When Indonesian natives finally arrived on Komodo, they found an inhospitable terrain and a lot of monitor lizards. What did they name these huge creatures? Was it Ora, Horta, or Ezra? Well, the correct answer is A, Ora. The island was so undesirable that convicts were sent there. Gradually, other people arrived and lived a simple life by the sea, leaving the interior to the fearsome monsters. There are more questions to come, so don't stop yet. Try your hand at this one. Monitor lizards have flicking tongues that serve a surprising purpose. They actually help another one of their senses. Which one? Is it sight, smell, or hearing? Well, the answer is B, smell. Their tongues pick up scent particles from the air and ground and carry them to sensory cells in their mouths. How are you doing with these questions? While there's no call for dragon slayers these days, we can always use some more dragon experts. So keep trying and see if you remember the answer to this question. Komodo dragons are considered an endangered species because there are so few that can reproduce. The ratio of males to females is 4-to-1. Is that true or false? The answer is true. No one knows why there are so few females, and that's one reason they're being studied. Much more information is needed so their survival in an uncertain world can be guaranteed. Are you close to being a dragon expert yet? Keep working on it, because here's another question. Catching and tagging Komodo dragons is very dangerous work. One has to be especially careful to avoid being bitten by one. Why? The teeth break off in the wound, they are poisonous, or the teeth are contaminated. Well, the right answer is C. The teeth are so contaminated that they can cause lethal infection. Well, how you doing on your dragon quiz? Because here's your last question. Komodo dragons dig burrows into hillsides and the steep banks of gullies. What is the probable reason for this? Is it to regulate body temperature, to escape predators, or to avoid the rain? The answer is A. Like other reptiles, Komodo dragons are cold-blooded creatures and must use outside sources to help them regulate body temperature. Did you have fun playing Animal Quiz? Well, it's not every day you get to meet a living legend. Dr. Offenberg's stay on the island of Komodo marks the end of the age of isolation this place once knew, and the beginning of man's real knowledge of the giant lizards. This natural isolation, coupled with scientific study and management, may mean that survival will be a reality for the Komodo. After all, dragons don't have to live just in myth and legend. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time. Until then, remember, be kind to animals. It's good for everybody.
Do you know anybody who doesn't like baby animals? I sure don't. And one of the most exciting places to see them is at the nursery of a zoo. Every year, thousands of baby animals are born in zoos around the world. Some are delicate, some are hardy, some are even dangerous. Many of them need and get very special treatment. But from the aardvark to the elephant, to the lemur, to the kangaroo, they have one thing in common. They're absolutely lovable and fascinating. Now we're going to see some very special zoo babies, and later in the show we'll find out how much you remember when we play Animal Quiz. Stay with us now because it's just for fun.
The San Diego Zoo has many claims to fame. It's the world's largest zoo, and by any standards, it's one of the best. Over 3 million visitors come here each year, attracted by that special interest man feels for his fellow creatures, that need for contact with other forms of life. This gazelle is only moments old. Weak, but already eager for life, it struggles to stand. More than 400 babies are born here every year. Each new life is a miracle under any circumstances. But in zoos, new lives represent a victory, for many animals do not reproduce well in captivity. Yet modern zoos realize the necessity of raising their own animals rather than taking them from the wild. They spend countless hours and dollars making conditions right for animals to bear and rear their young. The results? An exotic collection of beautiful babies. While instinct serves most zoo mothers and babies richly, occasionally the parent is unprepared or unable to care for her offspring. In such cases, the baby is turned over to human substitute parents. Joan Embry, a young woman who has helped bring up many zoo babies, explains.
When animals are abandoned, they're brought here to the nursery and hand-raised until they can be introduced to solid foods. Eventually, they learn to be introduced to our paddock area or to another group of animals, so that hopefully when they're old enough, they may be reintroduced out into the main zoo once again. Ellie's doing very well. We found that we have a great deal of success in hand-rearing many of these babies. They're all different, and they vary in their care. Hopefully, Ellie will one day be back with the herd where she was born.
For the public, the nursery is one of the zoo's greatest attractions. This is Minerva, an aardvark. Her mother failed to care for her, so she was moved in here when she was 6 days old.
When they do come in, they're very helpless, and they need someone to kind of give them a chance to live. And there really is a struggle for life when they're that young.
Minerva's development is carefully watched, and this very unusual baby is thriving under round-the-clock care. This ring-tailed lemur, too, is surviving because of hand feeding and constant attention.
It's very difficult for them to learn how to nurse and develop to a mature animal. It's rather rewarding to have a part in the growth of this animal and help it go back to its own kind.
The zoo people realize how precious each little life is and spare no efforts to care for their charges. Because there's more than a job or a principle here. There's love. It's true that everybody loves a baby, but the relationship between zoo babies and their human mother substitutes is very deep and special, for these offspring are completely helpless and dependent. Joanne Thomas has raised a succession of zoo babies over the last 6 years, but she says none have been more beautiful, lovable, playful, or fun to watch than these Siberian tiger cubs. The orphans are not exclusively assigned to one nursery girl, for everyone must be able to handle and care for them. But in addition to being fed and exercised daily, each baby is entitled to some playtime. And the girls admit they do fall in love with certain of the babies. Siberian tigers are an endangered species, so these cubs are doubly precious. The nursery here is equipped with incubators, sterile areas, specialized diets, constant medical attention, and heart. Everything necessary for the survival of the zoo babies. Ask a child what he wants to do on any holiday, and chances are he'll tell you he wants to go to the zoo. The Children's Zoo is designed especially for little people to get acquainted with the animal world. Usually it includes the offspring of some large wild mammals, some barnyard stock, and assorted gentle, cuddly creatures. The children, full of excitement and anticipation, must wait until the animals have been released before they can enter the petting area. The wait seems like an eternity, but they can watch in the meantime. When the children enter, they're always full of energy and enthusiasm. This is a place created for them, where they're allowed to play and touch the animals to their heart's content. Besides the joy involved, this is an important experience, an introduction into another world where city-bred children can come face to face with animals they might never otherwise see. The Children's Zoo also offers a unique opportunity to observe the care of exotic wild animals and to come closer to them than any other situation would allow. Baby elephants are always an object of wonder. This is Scout, a 400-pound, one-year-old who sometimes doesn't want to bathe any more than children do. Everyone responds to young animals, but children seem to feel their special kinship with them. A visit to the children's zoo is fun and exciting for the average child. But for a blind child, the zoo experience goes far beyond that. Any youngster deprived of sight must rely on the other senses for all contact with and knowledge of the outside world. The sheer joy of petting the animals is reflected in this little sightless girl. The touches, the sounds, the scents these children take home with them will never be forgotten. The animals seem to sense the gentleness and vulnerability of these children and respond with patience and quietness. Such experiences provide a wonderful means by which children can be motivated to learn. The Zoo Project for Handicapped Children encourages the use of the zoo babies. It's pretty hard to tell this child what an orangutan is, but if she can stroke its hair, feel its breathing, touch its hand, she knows. So, through their very existence, the zoo babies can provide learning and fulfilling experiences for all children. Most parents want to acquaint their children with the wonders of the zoo as early as possible. So a lady with a baby doesn't usually attract much attention here. But occasionally a baby comes through that's so exceptional, everyone has to look. This is Karen, a one-year-old orangutan, and she doesn't understand what's so special about this. Don't all babies get wheeled around in strollers? Karen is used to lots of human interest. Since she was a tiny infant, Karen has been raised by people and had all the attention a human baby would have had, and maybe more. These outings among the visitors to the zoo are one of the treats she's enjoyed from the time she was old enough to sit up. But it's hard to know who enjoys it most. With all the care and affection lavished on the babies in the nursery, a bond of deep affection naturally grows between the youngsters and the girls who raise them. But the day comes when the animals must become accustomed to their own kind. This orang made that transition some time ago. Now it's time for Karen, the baby orangutan, to meet another ape. And this is her very first introduction. The friendly overtures of the other animal are quite misunderstood. Poor Karen. She's like some children on the first day of kindergarten. But like them, she too will eventually begin to feel happy and comfortable with her peers. Experience has proven that just a few minutes exposure to other animals is best at first. So Karen is soon removed to go back to the familiar surroundings of the nursery. In the meantime, it's been something of an ordeal for the older orang, so a reward is definitely in order. Joan Embry says her earliest and fondest memory of animals is the first elephant she saw in a zoo. A childhood dream comes true as she trains this young elephant. The training of zoo elephants begins the day they arrive. For if they did not respond to commands, soon there would be no way to handle such large animals. The elephant is rewarded each time she does the correct movement. Joan uses the traditional hook to guide the animal at first. Eventually, it will respond to vocal commands. Joan says it's amazing how many words the animal can learn to respond to and remember. And if you watch carefully, you'll see how really clever this young elephant is. Within an amazingly short period, our little orangutan has nearly completed the adjustment necessary to leave the nursery permanently and live with others of her own species. Soon she will spend all of her time here, happily playing with the other apes and bringing joy to countless visitors to the San Diego Zoo. In return for the nurturing and care they receive from the zoo and its people, each zoo baby contributes the appealing vitality of its own young life, a priceless gift for all who come to see.
I have to admit that some of my favorite zoo babies are the orangutans. We spent some good hours together, both on and off the screen. You know, once we were filming with a baby orang much like this one. I was holding him in my arms and trying to say my lines. The whole time he was making very rude noises. The crew and I were laughing so hard that I wasn't sure whether we'd finish. You know, in many ways, orangs are just like humans. They'll do anything for a laugh. Did you know that the word orangutan means person of the forest? They live in the tropical rainforests of Indonesia and Malaysia. Orangutans are on the brink of extinction, but fortunately they're now fully protected in their native land. And tremendous work has been done with captive breeding in zoos around the world. Orangutans, along with chimpanzees and gorillas, are man's closest living relatives. And after humans, they're the most intelligent of all land animals. In the wild, a baby orang will stay close to its mother until about the age of 4. In captivity, they're raised very much like a human baby would be. And I don't think they mind it at all. Now, if you're ready, we'll take a look at some of the other zoo babies and play Animal Quiz. See if you can answer these questions. And remember, have fun with them. Here we go. Millions of people visit zoos every year, and most of them want to see the baby animals. You know, each birth is a cause for celebration. Now, this animal is only hours old. What is it? An eland? Or a gazelle? Or a deer? If you said gazelle, you're right. One of the 400 animals born yearly in the world's largest zoo. That was just your first question, so don't stop yet. Here's another one. Usually, most zoo mothers rely on their natural instincts to raise their babies. But sometimes the parents aren't able to care for their offspring. In such cases, the baby is turned over to human substitute parents. Is this true or false? Well, the answer is true, and that's where the zoo's nursery comes in. The babies are raised there until they're old enough to be reintroduced to their own kind in the main zoo. Well, this little character and I are getting along so well, I'm thinking of adopting him. But first we have to work out the terms. While we're doing that, here's your next Animal Quiz question. Siberian tiger cubs are especially precious in a zoo nursery. Why? The mothers die at birth? They're very difficult to raise. They are an endangered species. You're absolutely right if you said C. They are an endangered species. And everyone born in captivity means a greater chance of survival for the entire species. Well, our adoption negotiations seem to have broken down. This list of his written demands, I think orangutans might be smarter than anyone ever suspected. He's not even big enough. And already he wants the keys to the car on Saturday. Well, I'll try to renegotiate, and here's your next question. The Children's Zoo is an exciting place because youngsters are allowed to pet the animals. This takes on even more importance for certain children. Why? They are blind, or they live in the city, or the animals are tame. Well, of course you're right if you said A. These children are blind. They have to rely on their other senses to tell them about the animals. How are you doing on Animal Quiz? Because here is your last question. Baby animals raised in the zoo's nursery are eventually reintroduced into the main zoo. How? They are left in the compound to fend for themselves. They get used to it gradually, or an older animal takes care of them. Did you say B? Did they get used to it gradually? You're right. The human mothers keep a close eye on them until they're accepted by other animals of their own kind. Did you have fun playing Animal Quiz?
Well, we sure did. I'm glad you were able to share the story of the zoo babies with us. It's a very important one. Zoos like the Los Angeles Zoo realize that they can no longer obtain their animals from the wild, but breed their own. And the work that they're doing is what stands between many animals and extinction. I think you'll agree that it's a most necessary job and very rewarding. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. And remember, be kind to animals. It's good for everybody.
Come on home where your good friends are waiting. Everything shiny and new. Come where excitement is playing. Walt Disney and you.
Come home to all your good friends. Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Herbie, Alice, Winnie the Pooh, Mary Poppins, Pollyanna,
You have a stubby little nose.
and many more. You'll see your favorite heroes, including Zorro, Davy Crockett, the king of the wild frontier, and Condor Man, Disney's spy in the sky. But there's no escaping the Disney villains.
You call that murder?
Lean on him.
Am I in your way? He's not an agent of the CIA. He is a writer of comic books. Wait, don't nobody know this is a holdup.
That rotten car is driving me piffy!
Fire that musket, and I cuts his throat.
Was that anyone we know?
He's your uncle?
Yes, that's why I happen to know Uncle Alonzo has a heart.
Want a light? You're invited to enter a world of excitement. Suspense.
What did you see?
Surprise. And laughter.
Oh, my God.
A world of tenderness.
Please try to understand, Pollyanna. You're such a part of our lives now. Nancy and Angelica, Mrs. Lagerlof. And I love you as if you were my own little girl. Won't you give me that chance? Please.
Tears.
Tony, you've got to get out of here before it's too late, please.
Adventure. And music.
Even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious. If you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
And more laughter.
Hey, you mangy cur, come back with my car!
Get him!
That shaggy dog just stole my car.
Roses and rainbows.
And more music.
You better take a look again.
That's just the way we like them. It's magic. It's frightening.
Isn't this a clever disguise?
It's cute.
What are you supposed to be?
I'm a little black rain cloud, of course.
Silly old bear.
It's and it'll take you by surprise. Are you ready for the Disney lineup?
You ready? I'm ready. You ready? I'm ready. You ready? I said I was ready.
Come on home. See what's waiting for you. Waiting for you. Come on home where your video's playing. Good times are waiting, it's true. Come where your family is waiting for Walt Disney and you. Walt Disney and you. Walt Disney and you.
Now available from Walt Disney Home Video.
Great!